Hey everyone, with the release of Update 47.0 comes Ninja Kiwi's first DLC for BTD6, Rogue Legend. Rogue Legend is Ninja Kiwi's attempt at a roguelike mode for BTD6, and I don't like it at all. It's not a good roguelike experience, and this might be very controversial, but it's currently not worth the $10 they're asking for it. I've played many roguelikes over the years, like Vampire Survivors, Peglin, Children of Morta, Dead Cells, Crab Champions, Risk of Rain 2, Wizard of Legend, Slay the Spire, Dome Keeper, Hades, Tower Tactics Liberation, Nova Drift, Ship of Fools, and many more. But I do want this game mode to succeed, so I'll give suggestions to improve it at the end. I don't want to spend too much time on this, so let's get to my arguments. Number 1. Players are incentivized to skip battles to avoid wasting time. When you land on a red balloon tile, you enter into a battle. When you beat the tile, you gain tokens you can spend at the shop. That sounds alright, so what's my problem with them then? Well, when you beat a tile, the next red balloon tile increases the number of rounds you need to win by 3. But the starting round moves up by 1. So for example, this tile starts in round 1 and ends on round 10. Next tile starts round 2 and ends on round 13. This isn't a big issue early on, but you will eventually get to a point where you need to beat 30 plus rounds in order to finish the tile. At this point, each battle may take around 20 plus minutes to complete. The rounds are also not randomly generated, which becomes repetitive and tedious, since you will see the same rounds repeatedly. Unpredictability is a core staple of roguelikes. I could forgive this, but the only thing you gain is tokens for the shop, and the shop is very underwhelming. Number 2. The shop is almost useless. In most other roguelikes, the shop is handy and almost worth gunning for. In Rogue Legends, this is not the case because the shop only gives artifacts. Let's look at Slay the Spire's shop. In this, you can purchase relics, remove a card, buy potions, and buy cards. Imagine if in Slay the Spire, the only thing you could buy is relics. That is basically what the Rogue Legend shop is. Number 3. Artifacts feel like I'm choosing lesser evil. Many of the common artifacts and rare artifacts are just increase stat by X% and decrease other stat by X%. I often find myself wanting to skip artifacts I come across because the buff to a stat isn't worth the hit to another stat. Also, you currently can't skip artifacts you come across. Anyway, during a battle, you can choose a temporary artifact, monkey, or power. I'm not really sure what the purpose of this is. I would remove this and move the current temporary boost into permanent artifacts if it were up to me. This way, players would have more variety of artifacts instead of choosing the lesser evil. I would also like to see more unique artifacts that aren't just stat increases or giving towers effects from other towers. Number 4. Permanent progression does not feel rewarding. How permanent progression works is when you beat the final boss of each stage, you can gain an artifact of the boss or choose some tier 5 monkeys. No matter what you choose after your selection, you can extract any artifact you have collected so far. When you extract it, you lose that artifact for this run, but you can now choose that artifact when you make your party for your next run. This isn't a fun way to implement permanent progress. A single run already takes 4+ hours. Extracting all the artifacts would take an unreasonable amount of time, and it doesn't feel good to lose a cool artifact just so I can use it for another run. Number 5. Runs are way too RNG dependent. You might ask, Personity 7, it's a roguelike. What do you mean it's RNG dependent? That's how roguelikes are. And you would be correct, but Rogue Legends takes it to an extreme. Most of the problem comes from a terrible shop. There are runs that I have had and I've seen online that got bricked because they were forced to face Vortex on Ravine and had no global range options. It's possible that they never got an opportunity to get a global range tower. Or me facing Dread Balloon and never getting the chance to get 2 different categories of towers that can hit lead balloons. Or even an artifact that can alleviate this a bit. In other roguelikes, you die because of a skill issue or bad decision. Sometimes you die to RNG. But in Rogue Legends, most of the time, it seems like you die due to not being given enough options. Suggestions. Some other minor things could be improved, like more variety in tiles. For example, adding a question mark tile that has a random effect, and reducing the number of stages from 5 to 3. This would reduce the time it takes to finish a run. It would feel bad losing a run on stage 4 knowing that you spent 4+ hours on that one run. But I want to get into my ideas to improve Rogue Legends, so let's start with the first point. Number 1. This one is easy. Either add a faster fast forward option or reduce the rounds to 10 for each battle, but the difficulty is massively increased. For example, having an all camo tile, all fortified tile, hyper dense rounds, and many other things. This way, the player is actively engaged and challenged and doesn't feel like they're just wasting their time. Number 2. This one is also easy. just add some monkeys to the shop. This would further incentivize players to seek out battles instead of skipping them, and would help with runs being bricked because you weren't given any towers that could counter the final boss. Number 3. I already suggested this when I made my argument. I'd be satisfied if fewer artifacts gave or take, or feel like they give more than take. This way players aren't confused about whether an artifact is better to take instead of just not taking it. After all, the majority of BTD6 players are children. Number 4. I would honestly scrap how meta progression works at the moment. Instead, I would implement a monkey knowledge system exclusive to Rogue Legends. Whenever you take an artifact, you discover it, and you can choose it for your next run. You would gain monkey knowledge points by beating stages. Number 5. This problem would be alleviated by having a better shop, so I have no other suggestion here. Now, I don't expect Ninja Kiwi to change the game mode, and I don't know if they even feel it is necessary. Even if they did decide to change the game mode, I would expect any changes to be made to be released in a major update and not a side patch. So it's going to be a while before any changes to the game mode are made. Anyway, hope it didn't come off as too negative, as I'm just disappointed. Rogue Legends was teased for months before launch, and it feels unfinished. It has the bones of a roguelike, but that's just it. Just bones. It's not fleshed out.